Oh, whoops. Oh, whoops.
Paxton, you pinged everyone. No.
Sorry, everyone. Oh,
I didn't get a ping. There's apparently not everyone ping. What?
Probably because you were already there. The Paxton forgot to turn off the at everyone.
everyone ping, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, it starts off with a checked. So yeah.
Well, what we're gonna do is talk about Opus Magnum results, but it's certainly not at everyone material.
I can hear the eepiness in Biggie's voice.
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. I woke up 5 minutes
Good
before
morning.
this. Good
Good
morning.
I
morning.
appreciate you joining me. All right.
Those of you in here still in the VC listening in, it is on stream. I hope. Are we live on stream
It is
already? We
already
are live on
broadcasting.
stream already. Is it? It is. All right. Good morning.
All right. Welcome to the second week results stream second week of the Opus Magnum 2025 tournament. The puzzle was Thermic Capacitor, where whoops. Why did it suddenly went?
Good morning to all the Americans. How many Americans are even watching the stream right now? And how many of you haven't slept yet? Noise in Biggie's background? I don't hear any.
I just set myself up on push to talk so that I wouldn't have noise. Sorry about that.
I sure didn't hear any noise.
But okay, the puzzle was Thermic Capacitor, and you had to make these two outputs, in a chamber that is the smallest. This is actually, I think, the smallest tournament production puzzle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. I think so.
The ratio isn't really clear. There's you can use. It is obvious that you need four fire grabs, but you can either the metal part you can either project the copper or purify the copper.
So you can either pull 2 Quicksilver or 2 Quicksilver and 4 copper, or 4 copper and 2 Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You do need 6 of the combination of the two of them, and there's not any purification math really, because it is always going to have the same value. But yep, it is uncertain and you have multiple choices.
All right, so let's the categories. The
audio balance okay? I'm not sure because I don't know. People were saying that there's noise whenever I'm whenever I am speaking that is louder than Hexton is. Okay, it's fine. Let's go.
All right. So the metrics were instructions with cost and with cycles and cost tiebreakers, and sum of cost cycles and instructions. And I'll start with instruction solves first. At 50th place, Ruslan 4 IC, Novereshenia 1. They write, optimize for cycles. All my homies hate the clip of purification. If I see in Philpago 2, if I see any purification in the top 20 of either metric, I'm gonna morph. We're gonna see.
I sure hope I make the top 20 in some. Interesting. So this one passes through the conduit to make on the bonder, and then it passes back through to do the triplex. So it uses the conduit in both directions.
So yeah, I'm gonna talk about design choices while showing the next solve. 49th place, Jordster. Welcome to the tourney. I hope you enjoy your stay. At 120 instructions. So yeah, the two outputs were designed such that there's no clear division of labor. Especially fire is needed on the fire is needed in both chambers. You need metals on both chambers, but no single chamber can do either. And so if you try to cram every input in one chamber, then you have to cram every output on the other chamber, and that doesn't sound very savory. So yeah, I hope I succeeded in that front. We're gonna see. This one also
It felt like there were several good options at least. This stopped feeling quite as tight after I got started playing with it, so that was nice. Although in the instruction metric I did always want more space.
Alright, this one also looks like the just solve the puzzle solve. Alright. Next up, 48th place, Slap Drill. 118 instructions. I like those paths that the first server takes in this chamber. Alright. Alright, goodbye Beast. See you later.
This is so expensive. They're just trying to build everything they can for speed, I guess. Was this a cycles solve or just
there's no cycles metric.
Yeah, but they're building it for a fast solve.
Maybe.
It's not even specifically fast, it just has a lot of arms, I guess.
Alright. there are 50 submitters, and there are 52 total submitters. So I'm going to like move on. I'll have to move on quite quickly to like keep
that makes sense.
Keep the stream in reasonable length. 47th place, Bonbon, Sophie 0.0. They write. Oh yeah, this one does every assembly on one chamber, and uses the 2 hex conduit to efficiently assemble on the other side, because it is already half assembled. Is that an eye tie? No.
There was 118. Oh no, it was 117. I forgot about Sabjo's 117.
118. It was 118. Anyway, they write. Yes. Gonna be honest, completely forgot about week 2 until 6.5 hours before the deadline. So here's my 20 minutes speed solve before I went to bed. No optimization, just pure get this done energy. I'm gonna laugh if I place in the midfield again. Lore note. Ceramic has long been known to be an amazing insulator, hence its use for cooking utensils and primitive furnaces. And as we all know, metals have the largest thermal conductivity of any other elements. By combining the heat capacity of a metal, such as silver, with the insulative properties of a ceramic, a material can be created which stores large amounts of energy with minimal dissipation to its surroundings. Generally, ceramic and metal structures are incompatible, but by doping clay with beads of silver, a heterogeneous alloy may be synthesized upon firing. Such a material essentially acts as a thermal battery, storing thermal energy for long periods, so it can be used at a later time. Yeah, the Twitch tend to censor triplex, the word triplex somehow. I don't know why, but alright, next up. Yes, Murakonda, you can fit both outputs in the same chamber. Next up,
I keep saying there's more space than you think.
He writes, took some iterating on a second solve to get this one, and I'm pretty happy. Still at the 100s. Instruction count still at 100s.
There's a lot of diversity in this sort of build approaches. It's cool to see.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Next up, Pray for Mercy. 105 instructions. There's no notes.
Look at the path that last Quicksilver takes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is definitely new solution 1 energy.
Definitely geometry is the evidence that geometry is hard in this game.
I like how ARM5 grabs both the Quicksilver and the piece off the conduit. That's probably a reason that despite being still a new solution 1, it's lower instructions than everything we've seen before. Hex arms are just really good at doing multiple things.
Mm-hmm. Alright, next up. 44th place, we have our instruction tie. This is 30 cycles faster, blob of estrogen. Cost reduce 1.
Love to see one chamber that is just ARM triplex and that output.
This also assembles each output in halves.
This looks very sum-brained. I'm wondering how many of these solutions are also their best sum solution.
Let me see. Actually, let me see. I think this is their only submission, to be honest.
I do believe this would place somewhat more reasonably in some. I don't know the results. But just looking at how it does seem to be targeting cheapness, this might be an optimized summa solution that we're seeing in instructions just because it's first.
Maybe. Alright, so we have to move on. Next up. This is 43rd place. Wait a second. Yeah, we are going to skip the next solve due to it having some in title. At 42nd place, we skip the 43rd place. It'll be shown later. Britboy.
I feel like instructions is the more intimidating metric by quite a lot because people just don't have experience from free space with doing instructions. So I'm going to imagine a lot of people who solved only once were thinking, I'll just try to get a good sum.
This one
I'll adjust for bucking the trend. Only instruction solve.
This one is assembling cores first, then attaching the metals later. And double solder. Oh yeah, also this is exactly 100 instructions. 4 bonders. But cost is that theory, it doesn't matter too much.
I was going to say, cost isn't any of the primary metrics, although it does play a very, very big role in some.
Alright, next up. It be Charlie. Minus 12 instructions from the previous one.
We have purification. I repeat, we have purification.
We have our first purification solve.
It does significantly reduce the amount of conduit passing because you get to have one chamber that is the only place that you ever need metal.
But yeah, on one chamber, yeah, you have all the ingredients for the heating element for in a single chamber, so there's significantly less things to pass through. And yeah, this is purification, so no quicksilver needs to pass through.
Yeah, no, Mara, I'm with you, Mara. I think if anyone thinks that purification is bad, they'll have to fight me too. I wonder if our version of the puzzle is kinder.
Alright, next up. Reindeer. They write, I'm ill and supposed to stay in bed, but that's boring. So here I am solving a puzzle. How are you all? GLHF with the Tony.
Love to see Fandir back. I heard that name and then I saw the title is I'm Alive. It's great. We'll probably see a lot of these solutions returning in for some, just because these do, yeah, as Shadow Cluster says, they look kind of sumish.
This is actually their only solve, so this scores for both metrics.
Every now and then I'm doing a quick adding of the cost cycles instructions as they're shown in this and wondering, is this a good sum? I don't really know where the good sums live. I know where my sum number lives.
All right, next up, Guilty Bystander. 75 instructions, it keeps dropping. Half. We have our first fractional P.
Oh, both outputs in the same chamber, but it's building half of each of them per tape loop. That's really cool.
Yeah, the
technique you would want to use to reduce instructions in general is to have your instructions operate more than once to get an output made. So this is an example.
Mm-hmm. Also, how there needs to be a storage, because storage on output, because on the first loop no outputs are completed.
Yeah, they're halfway there and you're starting it up again, and this is a rather tight space to make both outputs at half P.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you got 4 arms. Each one can reach, or each of the pistons can reach the conduit. It has promise.
All right, next up, 70 store. Idea of new. Just a setup to reduce the amount of instructions, but I'm not sure how closer I can get to main instructions.
This one's very similar. Has conditional logic in the output chamber, doing very much what we just saw in the previous solution.
Yeah. The 3 pivots are... The ARM3 doing all the pivots are rather cool.
I do feel like these are relatively simple outputs to do at 1/2 P because there's an equal amount of inputs used for the first and the second half, so you only have to do conditionals when you're building the outputs.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's like obvious halves in the outputs even, so... Alright, next up. Maybe I should... Alright, maybe I should show this one in some, I don't know. Then the next one is 10 instructions better. Feel fuck. I'm here for my 4 points, thanks.
I remember looking at what Vilfleck was messaging in the stream channel. It says, I'll be 20th in I and 60th in sum. This is the I solution and it's 36th. The field's stronger than they assumed. We are running.
Yeah, this is
quarter P. That's cool.
Yep, 1/4 P. I'm impressed. Oh yeah, this one is also inputs in one chamber, outputs in another chamber. 2 triplexes.
2 triplex for instructions, I suppose. There's a lot of extra space. It doesn't seem like it, but there is a lot of extra space beyond min glyphs. You can do things. 2 triplex makes sense in this too.
Next one is at 35th place, no longer breathed in. The same instruction count, but what is it? Same instruction count, but much faster. This is
one's also
one,
one.
Yeah, one half.
You can see the conditionals going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Arm 3 is by arm only to reduce the return instructions. She writes, I feel like there's a 1/3 P solution somewhere, but I'm not sure it's better on instructions. This is somehow the same sum as my sum solution from 3 days ago.
1/3 is a crazy target because you need to grab 4 fire to make both outputs. So you'd have to have a double grab on the fire input for one of the 3 tape loops. Not to mention getting 3 Quicksilver and 3 Copper is a purification and projection only way of doing it. I think 1/2 and 1/4 and 1/6 are maybe the reasonable targets.
All right. Next one. Edemos. So he had sent me he has sent me a note that is in 2 parts, so I'm going to read the first part on this one. The first part on the instruction solve. So back when this week was released, I made an initial solve which was good but not great. Then 7 days passed. The last hour I felt pressured enough by the deadline to continue working, and a lot of work happened very fast. The main 2 realizations I had for this puzzle was the clever construction of both products, which is shown more clearly in the right chamber. Making the right chamber 2 periods per product. I feel that I have hit a local minimum and there are only a few minutes left. Note, I took too long, lol, still gonna finish it though. So I'm spending this time to write some decent notes. Alright.
Interestingly, this one makes an entire of the triplex output and 1/2 of the other output every tape loop. So it has a different number of outputs per tape loop for each output. It's 1/2 P only on the silver output.
Yep, this is making the heat retaining element twice as fast as the argentic glass. Yeah. We shall move on though. 33rd place, Avenged Ruler. One instruction better. I was incredibly walled on this puzzle for some reason. Tried a bunch of stuff for like 30 instructions, but just couldn't make it work, so just submitting a solve. 30 instructions. Oh yeah, also conduit phasing.
I do see, Arm 2 drops a Quicksilver and a fire appears. Meanwhile, Arm 4 drops a fire and a Quicksilver appears.
Mm-hmm.
My first impression when you showed this puzzle was that there was a lot more space than needed, and then my second impression when I was working with it was, man, I wish there was more space. So that's the conduit. That's the production lifestyle. I mean,
Yep. At the same, there's more space and less space at the same time. There's more space than needed and less space than needed at the same time. Yeah.
my brain for instructions was very stuck on trackless instructions, which is always going to use way more space, as much as you can give it. It's good though that this doesn't leave free space instructions tech being relevant, because that's way too hairy.
Oh yeah, and this one has 2 metals on the same chamber, which makes making silver extremely easy. And fire Quicksilver routing is done via conduit phasing, so it is instructions decompressed to fill its content. Alright. Next up, we are skipping the next solve as well. We are going to see it, and we are going to see it later. 31st place, Crazybot 27. 51 instructions. Two loops per output. The only other time I did something like this was on Tonic of Hydration, where my solution did 3 loops per output. After hours of staring, I only managed to reduce my instruction count from 53 to 51, so I will be satisfied with that. Three hex arms.
Hex arms are very kind to instructions because they do so much per action they execute. Also, purification. It just makes sense.
Alright. I think we should move on though. While that there's some souls that are near half of the I leaderboard.
Instructions correlate strongly with both metrics, one by being the metric and the other by being part of the sum in the metric.
Alright, next up, Tweedledee. 30th place at exactly 50 instructions. Well, at least it's fewer I than some. Why is there
Delayed arm, delayed start. We got arm 6 delayed start. We finally in delayed start tech. I was hoping we would see this come up soon. So it makes 6 of the first input, and then it makes 6 of the second output.
Right, arm 6 and 7 doesn't activate until it has made the 6 of the heat retaining element.
Yeah, so for those who have never seen something like this before, arms that, like, people talk about there wanting to be a wait from here instruction. The delay is what you can do. You can start arms really, really late to have your machine do one thing until it gets into a loop of doing another thing. It's fun, yeah.
What was it? There was like 4-phase algorithm in the radio receivers TI, I think.
Yeah, this one turns on arms 6 and 7 to start its second phase. And the second phase is cool because it does still place the shape over the wrong output, and then it does the first rotate pivot, and then it goes calcifies and goes over the right output. It's smart.
Yep, this useless pivot instruction is actually vital in the second half. Alright. Next up, 42 Genius 42. I equal 48. Left chamber here in I almost identical to left chamber in sum. Can you spot the difference? Right chambers are different, optimized here for reducing overall I. Okay, and one half.
And one half. Genius 42 back. Arm 5 has a lot of tasks. Not Arm 5, Arm 3. Arm 3 has a lot of tasks. It seems to be the workhorse of everything to make it all work out for the building out that other output in the main chamber.
It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It has 13 instructions. Alright. I know this fire chamber. We're gonna see.
I'm doing some quick mental math. I think I should have known this fire chamber.
Ten instructions fire chamber. Alright, next up. X Soccer 888. 47 instructions. Again, 1/2 PO storage.
It's fun to have the people who you see at the beginning of the stream do something become the name that at least in my head I'm giving it. This is the guilty bystander method now.
Oh, this is 1/4 P.
This is 1/4 P because arm 2 manages to be on opposite sides of the input. So 1/2 P, 1/2 P, half of half.
And
it distinguishes which of the 2 atom types came through the conduit based on timing in the loop. Yeah. That's cool.
So arm 3 grabs fire only one time per loop, and it still can make both outputs because of this timing tech. Really cool. All right. Next up, Coco 52. New solution 61. This is also 1/4 P. No, this is delayed. Wait. This is also delayed start. I see.
It takes a half P to build each output.
Mm-hmm.
But then does a second phase that is building the other output in half P instead. And Halojasper mentions it's quarter P, but maybe not, because it's producing half of one output per tape loop, and there are two outputs, so that sounds like a quarter. This one uses ARMS 8 and 9 delayed. Is 7 also delayed? Yeah, 7 must also be delayed.
7 starts from the beginning, but it grabs nothing at the beginning.
Ah, okay. So not instructions delayed, but logically it doesn't do anything until the delayed.
Yep.
Yeah, Brett has a good point. You don't actually produce outputs in both types ad infinitum, so it is 0 P because it makes 0 products.
No rate, so there can be a P. There cannot be a P. All right. All right.
So ARM1 has to be a biarm because it would grab on top of the fire in the first iteration. Once it's doing the second iteration, it doesn't seem as obvious, but in the first iteration, it leaves a fire where it would be grabbing if it were a triarm.
Ah, all right. I see. All right. Next up, at 26th place, Jammu.
Gemma recently said, pilot, please.
Wowie, instructions. Ah, I'm losing it. That's the note. Silver is done with halves, but the silver output is done with halves, but the fire output is done by making the cores first.
That makes sense, so that triplex can be in the chamber without the two outputs. If you had them as halves and both outputs in one chamber, you have to do triplex in the same chamber that has both outputs, which is really space constrained. I'd love to say this makes sense, but there's a lot going on in that left chamber.
Also, ARM6 completes the triplex bond and pivots it so that ARM5 can reuse the same 3 instructions and still pass the triplex fire through the conduit. A lot of cool things going on.
Oh yeah, Bread points out if you're grabbing the lower of the two with just the pivot and you're out of the way because you're up high, yeah, there's a way to save 2 instructions on this that Bread just found in chat. ARM6 is length 2, sits next to the copper input, points down right, and just pivots.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it does, yeah. But the Arm 4 has to also be delayed, I guess.
Just destroyed Jamu on stream. I'm so sorry, girl.
Did the two instructions have mattered? Yes. Wait a sec. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. It wouldn't have been a quick and easy thing because it changes tape loops. Wow, this one has a big. This has a big tri-arm. I love to see big tri-arm.
2 of them even. And they are doing... Yeah. Arm 1 is doing a lot of things at the same time. For your rights, using hex arms with multiple stations is a common motif in instructions, but can be hard to visualize and get the order of operations right. Started with a 1p51 instruction solve, then spent a disproportionate amount of time converting to 1/2p, but with only 5 instructions less. Ironically, I found the argentic silver harder to put together at 1/2p, since the order of the 2 atom sticks is reversed, making it hard to assemble using only 1 hex arm. Prediction: the winning solution will have about 32 instructions and will also be 1/2p.
We're hearing predicted numbers. That's interesting.
32 instructions. Hello Jasper is not predicting 1/2p.
Low instructions at the top is always wizardry. I know what I have, and I don't think it's wizardry, so someone who's gotten even better than me, I wonder what they made.
Alright, next up, Subboy. Still at 46 instructions.
But we've got this big pile up.
Yep.
Arms 9 and 10. That's really cool. Just the pivot, pivot, pivot. Because you need to reverse, as the previous solution note said, you need to reverse one of the halves for the salt one.
Oh, yeah, right. But couldn't it be a, say, a piston arm and...
It could. I think you would still need to do an extension and 3 pivots, which comes out to 7, which is better than 9, which is what we have here. So maybe so. Maybe arm 9 could be a piston, extend, do 3 pivots, and drop.
Hello Jasper says, very nice that it really piles up before myself. Alright. There's no notes.
Oh, I know this is only the same cost as a piston because arm 8 does the 3rd pivot, not arm 9. It's the same.
Alright. Next up, Sai looks away. This is 4 cycles faster than the previous one.
Well, it's crazy how piled up it is suddenly. We take that.
Sneaky arm 5.
See, look at how much space arm 4 uses. This puzzle is spacious, I promise.
All right. 3 eye save. Your soul had a 3 eye save, Jemu. Surgery says. Very unfortunate. But we shall move on. 22nd place. One instruction better. Ice. Polite cat.
Polite cat. Oh, I love the hex arms on the input chamber.
Yeah.
Also, it's weird to see the input chamber being top and the output chamber being bottom.
Oh yeah. Arm 3 pivots, 5 pivots, 6 pivots.
And that works for getting on the edge triplex to make an output there. That's really good. Pivots are not expensive because you don't have to reset them.
They write, "This was a fun challenge. Smiley face. I found a better way to generate everything with fewer I, but I just couldn't get it to work with the limited amount of space. Good luck to everyone else. Lesson 3. Alright. Next up. At 21st place. Murakonda. New solution 1. She writes, "Sickness prevails, frown emoji. I'm taking my 8 points for the puzzle and leaving. Edit, I found the energy to make an actual sum-so BP. As a wildly uninformed guess, I'll predict that instructions goes down to 25.
So this takes 12 instructions in the right chamber to do what Genius took 10 instructions to do in the right chamber. It's curious. People doing all 3 inputs in one chamber and then only the triplex in the other. There's a very clear number of instructions that you can try to shoot for on triplex, and I didn't hit it. Caliuresis claims that there's a very low one compared to even Genius's.
Wait a second, Edimouse just DM'd me. Everybody's sick. Very pleasantly surprised to have dodged the pileup with my true new solution 1. Murakonda says. Alright. Next up, 2 instructions better. Cat spin. Well, it's less instructions. Oh, okay.
Arm 4 looks to be a delayed start arm.
Arm 6 too.
Got it. Oh, Arm 6 is so smart because it stops you from doing triplex just by the fact that it's already calcified. That's so smart.
Yep.
Salt doesn't triplex. We like Cadskin's designs. I wonder how much lower instructions she could have had just from an extra column of space in the top chamber, because it does look like the two pistons are trying to solve a problem in a very limited amount of space that should be easier with a slightly more.
This is Arm 6, especially Arm 6. This is a very cool solve. I'm going to move on though. 19th place. Kevlar at exactly 40 instructions. Wait. Okay. This is 1/2 P, yeah.
There's space for loops of track that offset you by 3. That's really cool. Same JPIV 1/6 sounded reasonable, but then I remembered that it's purification, so it takes 4 copper. What is it going to do with 6?
I didn't saw the final plus and thought it was 1/3 P. But anyways. Yeah, this is much more this one evidence that this is much more spacious than you might expect. But anyway. Predictions going on the Twitch chat. Next up. Hello Jasper. Significantly faster than the previous song.
Ah, but still 40i, with both outputs in the same chamber again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he mentioned that he was always putting both outputs in the same chamber pretty early on in the Twitch chat. Arm 7 being the delayed arm makes sense.
Oh yeah, the removes the quicksilver by projecting a copper and then replaces the projected quicksilver on the same place.
Yep, it's very reasonable to have the projector outfitted like that so that the same grab that would carry quicksilver now carries silver. It's great. It's quick. It's silver.
JPip says, couldn't Arm 1 be a try-arm here? I don't see why not, but this is... Oh yeah, also my playtest was at 43 instructions, so... And I couldn't submit it because because the Fazoni editor cannot parse custom production puzzles apparently, and the Feindir editor has been like gave me an error when I tried to connect to the site, so I couldn't submit my both playtests this week.
It's 43 instructions. Those are easy instructions to program, right? You could just make the solution again in the new version of the puzzle.
Maybe.
We don't get to see playtest. I don't know if it actually exists. We know that you don't actually playtest Hext, and it's just a long conspiracy to believe you're the good host here.
I'll just post the GIF files on the events channel after this finishes. All right. Next up, 38 instructions. John.
We are at a low p-value here.
Yep.
Grabbing 2 inputs in 6 tape loops means 1/12 p. That's crazy. Yeah, it takes Quicksilver every third tape loop, so it gets 4 of them per 12p. It takes 2 separate fires per 6 tape loops, so that's 1/12 as well. So much of this is just raw conditionals, because when you're at a very, very, very low fractional p, you have to assume nothing is present for a majority of your loops. There's so many arms, but there's so few instructions per arm. It's 10 arms and 3.8 average instructions.
The arm with most instructions is arm 7, which only has 6 on it. Very cool.
Well, with cycle secondary, I believe that you put yourself at the bottom of any ties by being really low fractional p, but 38's a low enough number. Maybe John thinks, there's no ties here, I'm good.
In fact, there's no ties here. Yeah. At 16th place, there's Mr. Royal Spade at 37 instructions. And then arm 7 is going to use that replace and Quicksilver trick again, I assume. It's pretty nice that the geometry works perfectly on the 2 pivots.
Is this the first debonder?
I think so.
I've seen most of the delayed starts using triplex, avoid making the triplex. But in this case, it's building it and then just breaking it back down again.
Yeah, I think this is the first debonder, yeah. Very clever.
I can only imagine that there's a timing nightmare, because when the arm 6 delayed start kicks in, it adds 2 tape loops to the round trip for the actual cores. And so you need to have there be a couple of atoms that make the full loop. I guess they probably just do make the full loop. Let's see when it breaks.
It does make the Quicksilver makes the full loop, but it is hexarm, so it is fed back directly to the input.
That's cool. It even proves on the first go around that it's just fine by letting the first Quicksilver make the full loop too.
Alright. Next up, wait a sec. There's notes. Mr. Royal Spade says, "This is an awesome puzzle. I'm sure some people solved it without delayed start arms, but it instantly jumped out as the obvious path. Arm 5 is both the MVP of this solution and its biggest limiting factor. Arm 5 does two jobs in this solve, wasting instructions when it moves between them. The hex it occupies is the only possible place for a translation arm and the only possible place for a double pivot arm. If I could split Arm 5 into two arms, I'd save two instructions, and the tape loop could be way faster. I tried tons of different geometries looking for a way to split the arms, but I didn't have any luck. There are a few different ways to make the metal wheel. One interesting one idea was to put both the metal and the Quicksilver under the hex arm. It ended up needing more space, but I love that it is possible. I feel like 37 is really solid for this puzzle, but production instructions always has wizardry, so I can't wait to see all the things that are somehow possible." Thank you for the kind words. Alright, next up. One instruction better. Reinen.
The round trip Quicksilver in the middle between the two is necessary because there's extra tape loops taken for the core when it moves into the salter. This looks so busy. Is it
Lots
1/3? There's a factor of 3. Looks like it's. Oh my gosh!
It is 1/6 on the silver, and 1/3 on the. Wait, it's 1/12 on silver and 1/6 on fire.
That's so cool. It's 1/6 on the fire, and yeah, that's cool. RMCGRE. Congrats on being pretty intensely good at this game on your debut year. I was late to the stream last week because I did not wake up for the 5 a.m., but you were second place on latency. That was already like a, whoa, new player? What? It's impressive showing.
Alright. They write, "Instruction is a new metric for me. I suspect I will be saying that sort of thing a lot this tournament. Learning to think about instructions has been fun. I started the week off at 65 instructions, having no idea how to make a decent solve, and I slowly got the hang of it over the course of the week. I'm certain 36 will be competitive based on past tournaments' production instruction scores. I just don't know how competitive, fingers crossed. 15th in this field, definitely competitive."
Yeah, the game fundamentally makes everything competitive, so you're up here.
Alright. Next up. How much is it? About. Wait a second. About 62 cycles faster. JPip.
Made me very happy that you were counting cycles and not instructions for the drop because of where I'm at.
And yeah, as the title implies, this is 1/6 and 1/2.
Arm 2 being the one that actually creates the fire pair for the core of the silver output. Totally disconnected from the machinery of the rest of that input chamber. That makes sense. I like it.
The Discord notifications. Wait a sec. There. This is how do I turn on the streamer? Okay. Seven is on excellent somewhere. Alright, this time turned on the streamer mode. Yep, ARM 6 is also very cool. Holding 2 Quicksilver at the same time and just outputs it into the receptacle. Alright, JP writes, I tried real hard here to lose an arm and drop 1, 2, 3 instructions, but everything I did just ended back up at 36 or worse. I imagine top will be like 33 or 34, but I'm happy with 36. Not particularly fast due to one side being 1/6 P, but I don't think it is too horrible. I really wish I could have made both products 1/6 P, but I didn't have enough space to do that in a way which actually improved the instructions. Alright. Next up. 106 cycles faster. Mr. Puzzle.
Oh, thank goodness, the pileup is at 36.
This is also delayed start.
And you got 10 instructions to build the fire output, so I can improve on mine because mine is more than 10 to do that, but I love that delayed start arm 4.
Oh yeah, this is late start, but the inputs are on different chambers. This is very... I did not know this would be possible, but...
Oh, this is exactly what my solution does in terms of the delayed start starts making the silver in the same chamber as the rest.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if there's any merit to arm 1 having only 2 rotates, or if there's some fundamental reason that can't work. Oh wait,
probably,
there is.
Yeah, connecting the...
You would bond again. You would just bond to the next iteration. Oops.
Yeah. Another 10 fire chamber.
Yeah, this is the same instruction count as Genius 42's fire chamber.
All right, Piggy, you are next up.
The 35s are here. I'm here. My fire chamber is more than 10i, and so I can clearly lose some. Fiesta keeps calling out how there are so many 10s, and I didn't get them.
Okay, 12 instructions.
So there's 2 instructions to save just on the fire chamber for mine. But this is another delayed start, where Arm 3 is pretty efficient at replacing the Quicksilver by half of its Silver Salt output.
Yep, only one return instruction. Yeah, it does a lot. It has to bond fire. It bonds fire and then plunks it and then replaces it with Quicksilver. It replaces it into Quicksilver very quick.
I'm curious how low it can be just by replacing something in the left chamber, because the right chamber I was pretty proud of. In the left chamber, I had a 36. I saved one instruction on the left chamber to get to 35, and then I started working only on some from that point. So I just completely overlooked that it could be at least 2 instructions better based on what I saw from others.
We're gonna see. Should I read your notes or?
You can. I forget what I wrote.
Yeah. I like you just. All right, I'm gonna read it then.
I can even go up and load it, and yeah, I have access to it. Here, I will read my notes. I will even read my notes with the host's tradition of Biggie says. I think delayed start is really powerful here because the copper input isn't needed for the triplex output. I considered other delayed start ideas, but all either took too much space or too many instructions. I am always suspicious of instruction submissions that turn out trackless. I wonder what I could do better.
Like you just cut off when you just replied to that, so I didn't hear it. So the reply. So, but thanks. All right. Biggie, your solve was the only 35 instruction.
A standalone past the pileup. Does it go to 34 next or 33?
34.
I could have beaten that with a better output arm.
Yep, 11th place, Evonop. Evonop writes, when you are lazy enough, a single tape loop does work to handle entire triplex bond, and almost all work for assembling heat-preserving components. Arm 2 is a bit sad, unable to be a hex arm, but it really can't grab the first Quicksilver for heat-preserving component when grabbing the second Quicksilver. Buy arm of the week.
You know, the multi-bonder is really smart. Seeing it in this context, I love it.
Oh yeah, the multi-bonder here. Because there's just no space to like bond 3 things at the same. Bond the one half and then bond it to the another half, but you can just bond 3 things together and be done with. Alright. We move on to the top 10. Place your bets, everyone. At 10th place, I-33.
And this would have beaten my better output chamber, so I still wouldn't be top 10.
Oof. A large hex arm and a large tri-arm. Which works about the same way. Oh, the salt. Yup. Arm 6, salt in Arm 6 make turn and put fire onto the calcifier. Then Arm 1 grabs it, rotates it through the input, and then passes it onto the other chamber. Very slick.
I love that. It's cool to imagine, oh, we don't need to actually put it on the conduit. Arm 1 will do that automatically. Magically.
Alright. At 9th place, 32 instructions, spiritual shampoo. This is 9 instruction fire chamber.
It only works because it's quarter P, but it's very smart. It makes sense to have it be a quarter P because it's interrupting every second input with the copper. Instead of being delayed start, it's just on an arm that takes 2 tape loops to reset.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so streamer mode still let the ping stream. Alright. Mute this one too.
Oh, true. If you just make that a bi arm, it works identically. Well, yeah, you're right then. I will refrain from making a 32 out of myself just to show that I could have.
Alright. Next up, 31 instructions. Feraldok. They write, I really enjoyed this puzzle. It was my first production puzzle, and I liked it for the same reasons I like the height metric. Figuring out what to do in which box and slowly grinding away, improving each box instruction by instruction, arm by arm, was incredible. The best part about this solve is the cursed ratio. Twice as many of the bottom products are produced as the top product. The bottom product needs to be made every 2 periods because of ARM 5. Top product needs to be made every 4 periods because of ARM 3. All in all, I'm extremely happy with the design and am quite confident with the quality of the solve. 25i prediction is still alive. Yep.
This is very pretty. I like seeing arm 2.
Just 5 instruction and makes the core of the silver output.
And specifically makes it in a way that arm 4 can be multiple tape loops staggered and still put the 2 pieces right where they should go.
Right. Alright. Next up. 30 instructions. Thought. There's no notes.
Thoughts, solutions speak for themselves. It's using the very same hexar motif on the output chamber that I've seen a lot in these previous solves, so it is a very familiar bit of tech. It's very efficient about it.
Oh yeah.
Cad's been saying spoilers about someone claiming 22 in chat. That person's claiming 22nd place, not 22 instructions. That's not spoilers, as it is visible on the left of the screen.
I like how the salt has to pass through the conduit one way and Quicksilver the other way. Like salt and Quicksilver are magically exchanged over the conduit, and
that makes so much sense because there's so much more space in the right chamber, just because it's doing fewer things. So it gets to take on the calcification and then just conduit swap it. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Alright, next up. 29 instructions by Kazian. Tinker Tanker. Kazian writes, some molecules have an intent. Well, not strictly. This is alchemical engineering rather than pre-scientific alchemy. We left the mysticism behind. Molecules do not think and do not have desires. They do what results from their shapes and primes. But I can also look at a pair of molecules and see, plainly, we are to be made together, and your machine will suffer otherwise. The quicksilver of one is to be projected onto the other, the fire of one is to be calcinated into the other. Same shape, similar processes, and for that reason, I am sheepish to have not followed the molecule's intents. I am sure that conditional logic to create both in one process is more sound, and I envision several, but I could not find a terser method than creating the molecules separately, in separate chambers. Of course, there are some design goals for which that may be more natural. Alright, so this is 1/2 P. This is, since there's one salt every 6 loop, this is 1/12 T.
I think your stream just chugged a lot. It might not even be working at all, or maybe it's my internet, but it seems like it went down for a sec.
Did the stream went down, or did... alright.
I think it was mine. Yeah, it was mine. I'm back.
Alright.
Is the name in reference to the King Killer Chronicles, or am I just making that up because I read it too recently?
Maybe Constant can answer that. I don't know. I don't know about the. I don't know about that either. So. All right. Next up, random name 7190. He writes, I must say I quite enjoy instruction solves. Almost my entire experience with production puzzles at this point is solely instruction solves. Granted, that's still only like 6 puzzles, so I haven't exactly gotten a lot more experience since last year. Nonetheless, I think I've done rather well on this one. This solve actually originated as a joke with me seeing how few instructions I could use to create only one of the outputs, regardless of how much space I use it or how completely infeasible it became to make the other. I managed both individual products in 13 instructions, but each solve used over half the available area and required different specific locations for the conduits, making it likely impossible to combine them into a single solve, or even to get to the other product made in the remaining space. Or at least that's what I originally thought, but I managed to squeeze in a relatively low instruction solve for the triplex fire output into the silver output solution. My original solution for the silver output was simply arms 1 through 4, with 3 not needing the pivot instruction, as the fire was moved over salt naturally, by simply allowing arms 1 and 2 to place a fire quicksilver pair onto the conduit until arm 3 activates, and using arms 5 and 6 to perform the triplex bonding. And output using every bit of remaining area on that chamber, I managed to get both outputs with merely 28 instruction. The solve name represents my reaction to completing this solve. Dumbfounded bewilderment that the joke actually worked. From here, I think the path to improvement is by using less instructions to complete the triplex bond. I can't imagine any way to do this without more space, and likely another triplex bonder, which would immediately cause issues for the other product. So I doubt any improvements will come without drastic changes. As for secondary improvement, this solve saves instruction with its 1/12th tape loop at both arms 4 and 5, so it seems unlikely that will improve significantly with this design either. Yeah, fifth place in this field, it is amazing. It's pretty good, I say.
He cooked. When he was talking about having built one of the outputs and not knowing if there was space for the other, I did not expect the one that you built first to be the silver one. But it makes sense. It's just wild that that was already in place and you squeezed in the harder output.
Is this delayed start? Yes. Yes, it is.
Do you not have a scroll wheel for shift scroll?
I mean, I guess I can do this.
He's just watching you wildly pan your cursor to the right and left. Anyone who doesn't know, if you hold down shift and scroll, it moves the tape and the instruction tray left and right, which is much more ergonomic than clicking and dragging. Your scroll wheels must be very unergonomic.
Alternate, we will fix it so you can press Shift M to open the instruction. Alright. Yeah, this is the initial initially moving arms. And then way over there, there's the 2 instructions and two late start arms.
We love Fugitsuku.
Alright. At 4th place. Much faster than this one. Fiesta. Building 2 different products from a single set of inputs is always tricky when the goal is a minimal programming tape. Typically, it involves complicated timing, routing partial products in different ways on subsequent tape loops. The problem is, most of these techniques consume a fair amount of space, and there's very little to spare in this cabinet. But as I was starting my exploration of this puzzle, I remember the trick Kelly uses to use it to win the PIG metric for Pro module in 2023. Build a machine that produces one of the products 6 times, and then introduce a delayed start action that converts the entire machine to make the other one forever after. And when I reviewed the leaderboards, it turns out that this technique has been successful in Free Space TI and Production I a modest number of times, mostly notably Mist of Incapacitation, Van Verlo's pivots, Quintessential Stabilizer, and Fragrant Powders, the last of which I think is the nearest thematic cousin of this puzzle. You can see the implementation of that idea here with the long delay start on the arm that pulls copper inputs. I'm still a little dissatisfied with the fact that creating triplex bonds costs 10i, but every more economical method I found required at least one more hex in the cabinet. I also think there must be a way to improve the piston that rearranges salt-silver diodes, which burns 6i, the most costly single element of this machine. Even so, sub 30 feels like a great achievement. Final breakdown: building the triplex product costs 10i, building the silver product costs 10i, 8i is including 3i on the late start and the funky pivot on the hex arm, which is non-functional in the triplex product. 8i is shared by both processes. Wait.
It took me a sec to figure out how it doesn't calcify the fire in the original set through, but it is doing a pivot before the fire reaches the bonder because it is pivoting Quicksilver, which is sitting over on the left thing. That's really cool.
Right. That's really clever. Yes, you can put weight instructions in front of your instructions.
It is a duplicated weight instruction. It's a Fugitsuku only weight instruction because you can see there's one on arm 1 on the left.
Alright. At 3rd place. At 27 instructions, Calirisis. Yes, weight instructions do not count as instructions.
We have Pentapig and Sergi D battling out for first. This is exciting. Also, congrats to Calirisis on the 27i 3rd place.
Unusually for Calirisis, there's a short note. Feels like low 20s should be possible, but it eludes me.
It's not a 10i right hand chamber, it's an 8i. because the ARM4 doesn't have to reset to the first track hex it started on. That's really good. It works only because it's 1/6p, or I guess 1/12. No, 1/6. Right the first time. ARM6 is wild. Oh my gosh.
ARM6 is the period setting arm.
I mean, yeah, it's the only ARM in this solution that has more than like 4 instructions.
Yep.
And it does so much. It has like 3 different grabs. I guess it's only 2 grabs, but it has pivots in 2 directions.
Yep.
Cool puzzle. This is a really good example of delayed start. I know that Callie won the probe module with delayed start as well, but this is maybe a more pedagogical example if we try to describe the technique in the future.
All right. At second place, on second place, Sergi D. Still at 27
the streak continues. Pentapig is so dominant in production instructions.
Sergi D writes, use it the dirtiest trick in the book, outputting first one product, then the other, while recycling most of the machinery. I wouldn't be surprised if a better production wizard managed to shave a couple instructions. Unfortunately, the best solve I managed to get while outputting both products was 35i, which is a long shot from this one, so we are stuck with this cheaty solution. I didn't explore tracked arm shenanigans, which may yield better results, although the size of the chamber may limit the potential of those solutions. A different assembly method, such as placing an arm in the middle hex of the product, may also be an option, but I didn't manage to get it working. Pentapig.
I do love how 6 instructions between the 2 hex arms makes the triplex perfectly and delivers it.
Yeah. And then ARM6 activates and it changes to all salt. Alright.
It's amazing how much faster this is than Calliaresis. It's like a fourth of the cycles.
This is pulling 1 fire at per loop, so yeah, this has to be much faster. Alright. Pentapig was mentioning that he didn't felt confident this time. 26 instructions.
It also uses 6i on building the triplex, and it has a very, very similar, I think actually identical to Sergi's output chamber. The only improvement is having only one arm in charge of making the fire into salt instead of two. No, arm 7 saves an instruction over Sergi. That's so good.
Alright. Pentapic writes, I had little time to work on this because I wasn't home for most of the week, but I am not going to miss an instruction puzzle. I don't think this is optimal, as I have found 3 near misses for 25 instructions. That, or at least a period 6 solve, should be possible. Yeah, what is it? Arm 5 and 6, yeah. Essentially the same idea as Sergi's, but one less triplex glyph.
Yeah, whereas Sergi had an arm that did rotate and rotate back that took 4 instructions, and then a second arm that did a single pivot for 3 additional. Arm 7 in this solution does 6 instructions on its own and does both of those jobs, so it saves 1 overall.
Yep. Alright. Congratulations, Pentapic, for another production instructions win. But we are going to move on to the next metric, which was sum.
We'll probably see a bunch of those first solutions again, so it'll go fast.
We have seen this probably. Yep.
Yeah, this is a very low fractional P for being pretty high instructions anyway.
Right. There is a note from Ruslan 4IC. Look, I'm not the brightest for production alchemy. I have started to play this game last winter, by the way, and because my laptop resolution is small, most of my solutions were area-oriented. As you know, production alchemy doesn't care about area, since it's already constrained as is. Instructions are more parallel to cycles than cost, so solutions like these where the full area of the machine is not utilized are pretty much suboptimal. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Oh, and have I mentioned that my potential in RKI is 12.07? Sorry if you don't get the last sentence, but hey, the average is somewhere 11 something among seasoned players, and if you got it, sorry for flexing.
What game is that statistic related to?
RKI is a rhythm game.
Good, okay.
Mobile rhythm game, yeah. This is 734 some. Next up, Avenged Ruler at 48th place. Have we seen this one already? Yes, I think so.
Yeah, if it has instruction count this low, but it doesn't have sum in the title, you showed it during instructions. We also saw this during instructions. This was the first one we looked at. I remember the multiple bonders.
Slapdrill, I think we've seen this. Hello Jasper. Red Boy. Yeah, Matrix. The title is some version 7. I love the chaos that happens here in the projection glyph and the conduit.
Yeah, this is fast, but it's very expensive with how many arms are working. I don't know what the good guideline is for a production solve, but I know in a free space solve, 6 arms is the like. If you have more than this, your sum should probably be cheaper.
Yep,
this does leave a lot of visual busyness though, which is always fun to see. Like my favorite thing of Opus Magnum is just the visual awe of a finished solution.
Same. The rule is the 8 arms. Yeah, no record has more. No sum record has more than 8 arms.
Interesting. My memory of Zorflax is saying it is 6, but I am possibly misremembering.
All right. Next up, 70 Storm. A different approach to the projection conundrum. Is it better than purification though? Also, you wouldn't be using this much piston arms, even in production sum.
Yeah, pistons are profoundly expensive for the jobs that they do.
Alright, next up
I remember back when pistons were 30 gold. Real ones remember.
Next up, Pray for Mercy. 5 sum better. We have seen this solve. Next up, Bon Bon.
Oh yeah, the final Quicksilver that takes a year. We saw solve the 0.0 as well. Funny sticks of 54i comes up that high up. Nice.
Right. I also have shown this in instructions, but the title says some, so I'm going to show this again.
Oh yeah, this I think was our first purification scene in the entire stream. I remember this. I remember the way it makes the output. Very cool. I wonder if purification is more or less viable in some than it was in instructions. I know that the winning motifs all used projection for the delayed start application. But in some, you're not going to do delayed start, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. If you do, that's crazy.
We're gonna see. Right. Next up, Nightshine. A better mess trap.
We saw this as well.
Alright.
I think. Oh no, we moved really quickly through this, so it deserves a little bit of time.
I don't know if I've read this note, actually. Goodbye Galaxy says, some has to be purifying, right?
What are the notes?
Operator solve one. Should move me up a few ranks. I tried iterations, but the cost going up wasn't worth how much the cycles and instructions went down. Not for some at least. It in fact moved him up 1 rank better. And yeah, Pentapix's instruction solution ranks 35th. What is this slider at the right of the screen? This is the speed control and fix it to Opus Magnum mode feature.
The mods do a really good job of looking like they fit really well into the base game while providing so much new improvements to the way you can play.
Yep.
Kyojin Desu was on the 2020 tournament, so I think maybe he's taken a while off and hasn't seen the mods yet.
Uh-huh. I see. And here we see why don't show samples. Yes. Alright. Next up. No longer pre-today. I think this is a different soap than her instruction soap.
Yeah, I remember the name for the other was Variation 2 Lower Instructions. Cost matters a lot in the sum metric, so it's better to see a cheaper solution. Although it still only has 63 instructions, which is relatively low. It would have placed somewhere around 30th, maybe 40th in the previous.
Yep. Let me see. Alright. Next up. Sockboy. 1P. So this is much more expensive, but much faster than the previous one. Last one was 150 cost 279 cycles. This one is 305 cost 100 cycles.
When you see the golden ratio between cost and cycles, that typically only applies to free space. Although I'm curious in production, I guess I know that if nothing else, Fiesta does a lot of research into what exists on the leaderboards. Maybe Fiesta knows better than anyone else what the production sum ratios should be.
I assume it is still same in the production sum, but yeah, might be different.
It does seem like having a lower instruction count is easier to be correlated with cycles, whereas having a lower area is easier to be correlated with costs.
Right.
But that might not even be a true intuition.
Alright. Next up, Jamu. C. She writes, Lord Sum, cabinets are awesome, smiley face. I love cabinets, yes cabinets, woo cabinets, woo yes cabinets, ya wahaha yeah. Also Opus Magnum X Lemon Demon win.
We love Jamu.
ARM 7 outputs the silver output, then pivots the fire output of the ARM 6. That's very slick. Also, all 8 atoms has to pass through the conduit during the loop, which is
This conduit had never felt limiting, which is at least a good thing. You can do so much with a 2-atom conduit. Thank you for giving us 2 entire atoms of conduit.
Alright, next up. Ice. Okay, you can do this, apparently.
Oh! Oh, ho, ho, ho. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so happy someone did this. And it scored this well, too.
Yeah.
Polite frog, indeed.
Alright. They write, this is like barely faster than the ice of anyway, so who knows why I even bothered, but I did smiley face. Very keen to see what the rest of you all come up with, because I struggle to get this below 500.
See, if you have to optimize for area as well, this is sum 4, right?
Yeah, I guess so. There's no area statistics I have received, but maybe. But this is still, I never realized that one chamber is possible in the first place. So thanks for the amazing soul.
Jasper remarking at first that this isn't that impressive because you can solve it in Min-G in one chamber, but this is fast enough to be viable as sum, which is itself impressive.
Alright, next up. Guilty Bystander. New Solution 1. There's no notes.
This is different from Guilty Bystander's instruction solve, which had both outputs in the same chamber. This is pretty symmetric with the way that arms 1 and 6 build the output. It has 3 atoms and waits on it for a while the last atom comes around. I love the symmetry.
3 arms each chamber and 1 bonder. Arm that is surrounded by a bonder and the output. Very nice. But yeah, arm 1 might be better as a bi arm.
But arm 4 is the one setting the actual pace of the solution.
No, but you can still save, like, if you end up saving more than 10 instructions here, then it is worth it.
Oh, I doubt it would save 10 instructions. It might save 5. But it would need to improve the pace of the solution to be worth it.
Right. Yeah, this is 110 instructions, which is pretty expensive. And next up, Cavalier, 465. And only 57 instructions.
Oh wow, it's a half-p sum solution. I question whether half-p is worth it in sum. It's very expensive because of conditions, meaning you have to do more actions per tape loop, or at least more actions per output.
Yeah, this is like one entire hex arm's worth of track, so... But still, it saves like 50 instructions, so... While at the exactly same cycles as the previous solve.
I set myself a budget on arm count that was pretty low. I only let myself use 4 arms. So seeing all these expensive sum solutions, my thoughts are, really? Really?
Alright, next up. Oh yeah, 27th place. Catspin.
Did we skip 28th for a good reason?
Yes, there's a sum tie.
Ah, 27th is a tie. Okay.
Yep. And there's no tiebreakers, so these two solves tie exactly.
It's interesting that a second triplex glyph is cheaper or is better for this than grabbing it in 2 different places to use all 3 edges of the same one. That's 20 gold. I can only imagine you can maybe come back to that and save it by using all the edges of a single one.
Yeah, I guess the second triplex is... I guess adding a few more instructions is cheaper.
But then it wouldn't be 69 instructions, so she has a point.
Alright, and also at 27th place. 42 Genius 42. Left chamber here in sum almost identical to left chamber in I. Can you spot the difference? Right chambers are different. Optimize here for reducing overall sum.
Once again, I look at Genius 42's fire assembly chamber and I'm like, wait, that's better than mine. It's 1 instruction better, but still, it does the same thing, but it's lower instructions because it rotates to the output instead of pivoting, so it only has 2 rotates to return to the home. Genius 42, you're a smart cookie. I like your style. Oh wait, it does do a pivot back. You're right. It is the same instruction count as mine then. Because if it just did what you're saying, it's...
Arm 5... Yeah, that collides with this wall, so it cannot just move. It has to do the last pivot to swing. Alright. Rotate everything and not need the pivot. Not sure, but... But let's move on to the next solve. Coco 52. 4 points better than the previous one.
Are Cuckoo's solution names just incremental from like the start of tournament?
Yes. Not even start of the tournament. It's start from the... It started at the weeklies, as I remember, if I remember correctly.
I see. That's very cool. The long game.
8 atoms pass through this conduit every loop, and not even in pairs. It is mostly individual atoms, but it works. I really like this movement.
Hex arms just work so nicely for these outputs because of the C shape of them.
Yeah.
You've made a puzzle that is very aesthetic, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right. Next up, edit mouse. And now I read the other half of the edit mouse's notes. Though the script does not have a bug, this is also my best solution for some. This happened a lot, and it's the reason why I decided to rename it The Chosen One. Anyways, the massive impact cost has on some resulted in me always trying to save cost whenever possible, which also resulted in a decrease of instructions, which in turn saved cycles. This is the main reason why optimizing sum always optimizes ICG, and because of much I optimized for sum, it was only natural that it would result in the same solve for two metrics. At the top end, it is not as similar, but yes, at the we have seen one. Remember that skipped some solve because it was. And remember that skipped instruction solve in the middle of the pack because it was better in some. Yeah, we're gonna see that later.
Yeah, that's impressive. The correlations are strong when it's sum and the production instructions.
Mm-hmm. 24th place. This we also see in this one.
Oh yeah, Faindeer. We had definitely remarked when this was on stream before that it was a sum focused solve.
23rd place, Mr. Royal Spade.
This one's speedy quick. I like how arm 2 just chucks it onto bonders.
I think this is the first first sub 100 cycles, some sort.
I mean, Faindeer's was also sub 100 cycles, to be fair. We just kind of glanced at it for half a second just a moment ago.
Right. Mr. Royal Spade writes, life is doing life things, meaning most weeks won't get two good solutions. Compared to instructions, I'm very inexperienced with regular sum, let alone production sum. I know the conventional wisdom is to get all three metrics to around the same value, so I try to modify my speed solve to make that true. I slowed it down for some large cost cuts, but ultimately it is still pretty expensive. I'd love to hear from people who did well for this metric, talking through their thought processes.
This was like the first and maybe only week that I had some reasonable time to spend. And yet I feel like this puzzle was just kind of walling me at one kind of approach. So if I didn't do well on some, then there's no top 10s. But I did 12th on instructions, which I will take. Cat's been wondering if Arm 7 could be a hex arm. Why would it need to be? There's never a second.
There's only one return instruction, so it is not worth it. Alright. 22nd place. Random name 7190. That's how much is it? $16-point drop.
Is this like a 1p version of what was previously an instruction solve? I remember
Might be.
the timing. Yeah, random name had the timing based output that was in like 5th place. And it's very similar in terms of how it built everything, but now it's instead of a quarter p, it's 1p. That's really cool.
Random name, right? I still have no idea how to sum solve. Is this good? Does it suck? I certainly don't know. I had this working at 1/2 p for a while until I realized the 30 or so extra instructions I needed to make it 1p wasn't gonna hurt my sum as much as the 45 gold and 10 cycles I could almost immediately save with it. The entire joke of this solve name is me having no clue what a good sum solve looks like. My first attempt was literally just some optimized version of an early instruction solve attempt, and scored nearly 1200 sum. I called it sum solve question mark because it certainly wasn't what you typically call a sum solve, but it was the best I had. After I made an actually decent solve for this metric, with a sum just over 500, I instead called it sum solve exclamation mark and simply added another exclamation mark every time I made a non-trivial improvement. Have fun counting.
I like that. I like that there are 11 improvements that were made. John finds an optimization. That's probably a relic of it having started life as a half P, but yeah, you can save quite a few instructions on ARM4 by outputting in a different orientation.
Oh yeah, right. It definitely is possible. Alright, next up. Reinen. Down to 6 arms. This is my first time with the sum metric, but it wasn't the metric I spent the most time on this week. I spent more time on it than I spent on height cycles last week though, so hopefully it does alright. I'm sure 300 is possible. 300 is possible, but I'd be stunned if anyone made 200.
There's a big difference between 300s and 300.
Down to 6 arms, but this is still more expensive than the previous solve.
Yeah, it is quite fast at 106.
Yeah. 3 different bonders.
Yeah, expense is kind of useful for glyphs as well as arms.
Alright. Next up, Fuyu. 2 points better. Fuyu writes, I started off realizing that putting together the heat-preserving component with the correct partial triplex bond could be done with a single hexagon, leaving an excess fire atom which can conveniently be passed to the other chamber for the argentic glass. The rest of the solve is then built around it. As a fun exercise for this event, I shall make predictions on the winning score for every metric which I attempt. Prediction: the winning solution will have a sum of about 385. It will probably have only 1 triplex bonder and 3 arms. There's a triplex bond here, and then this triplex bond is used to, I guess, use it to connect the halves together, and then
It's funny that ARM2 is spending the instructions on the context switch, where like it could go finish the output, but right now it really needs to go put the thingy on the conduit, and that just balances it nicely.
Oh yeah, this output chamber is nearly the same as my chamber, I think. But mine was 430, I think.
Jasper, I think 385 is a great number. Let's just do 385, and if everyone has 385, that's perfect.
Right. Next up. Dropping 12 points. Dino Lord 919. Wasn't they lamenting that they didn't got 40th place? Mr. Puzzle laughs in different number. Alright, Dino Lord writes, doing this avoids some problems that, in hindsight, were pretty obvious.
See, this is period 17. Every time I see the purification glyph, I think, well, you could load it with one arm in period 20.
Right.
Which takes 4 instructions more than loading it in 2 arms, period as low as 8. But this one would be made much slower by having a single arm replace arms 1 and 6. Maybe that is the obvious improvement. We don't know. We don't know what is the obvious improvement. But given that arm 6 is the highest numbered arm in the solution, I wonder if previously it was arm 1 loading the purification on its own, causing it to be around 18 cycles slower. Oh, it's just in reference to the instructions, or no, to the previous solution. I would have to know what that solution was.
Alright, next up. Tweed OD. We drop down to sub 4. We finally break sub 400. Arm 6 is very slow, I think.
Oh, it's about the triplex bonder. Anyway, for this solution, got a lot of expense again, but it's fast.
Arm 3 has to be a hex arm because it doesn't have enough time otherwise. Because the loop length is 14.
Yeah, this has a really tight loop length. Usually when I'm doing free space, my thoughts are about the loop length, but in production I felt like it was so unreasonable to set a target loop length that I just focused on making it kind of cheap. This is so fast. This is the fastest we've seen yet.
Yep. At 90 cycles. But the next one is even faster.
Wow, some folks just crave production cycles even when you don't give it as a metric.
Ferraidok. 1 point better. They say, I just took parts of my instruction design and optimized it for some. I am confident that my instruction solve is pretty good, but I didn't know how to approach some. I'm guessing top solves will be way cheaper. 82 cycles. And only 12 loop. Oh yeah, also arm 6 doing 4 rotates and that's it.
Oh, I love how the purification loading arm is also the output delivery arm. It's so difficult in these chambers when you haven't figured out your design layout yet to find out where to fit the output, because sometimes you'll have a space for it, but it's so inconvenient compared to what you've already placed.
Oh.
Here it just goes nicely into that hex arm and gets output. That's great.
Yep. It is. Definitely. Alright. Next up. Crazy Bot 27. 390 some. They write, production can be painful to optimize, and some isn't my favorite metric, so it was a nice surprise that I found this quite fun. I don't think I've ever used hex arms this much before. Even though it's not the best, I'm very satisfied with this solution. P.S. Damn it, I was so close to 27th in both metrics last week. That would have been funny. Maybe this time? Well, 16.
Well, being significantly better than 27th is maybe better for the overall prospect. I've so far been 12th, 13th, 12th. I wonder if I'll hit 13th in some.
We're gonna see.
I like how arm 2 in the solution never has to drop. It's just carrying and building by the first atom that it holds until it makes the output.
Oh yeah, crap. In doing that way, you also save instructions and cycles, which is very important. Alright, next up. John. 3 points better. Sub 400 poke. We have seen this arm, but it was hex arm before.
Here's a 16 pace. That makes sense. 16 is a good number where you get to do 4 things with a 4-cycle loop.
Mm-hmm.
I like arm 3. It has 2 jobs. Although it only acts twice in the tape loop, so it is just as useful as arm 4, but 10 gold's expensive.
I guess the geometry doesn't allow arm 3 to be a single arm.
Yeah. I don't know, this sort of input layout does require a lot of conduit communication, which does limit things quite a lot, but this works through it nicely.
Mm-hmm. Also, Quicksilver is only dropped in here, and Fire is only dropped in the non-labeled end. So that works, I guess. Was there a pile-up yet?
You need both on both sides.
Not much of a pile-up. It's just a trickle of tiny drops.
But 385 is coming up, and we know that it's also first place, so we're going to have 385s for the next 14 placements.
Alright, next up, we pass 385. JPIP. Death by 1000 -1 sums.
Crazy that it goes below 385. I really like Arm 5's pivots. I love when a Hex Arm does a pivot.
You don't get many opportunities for that. But yes, very neat.
There's still a chance for me to be 13th.
Alright, next up. Five points better. Kelly races.
Oh dang, Callie. I beat Callie. Somewhat summy.
Arm 6 pivoting 3 times is pretty good.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's a big molecule in these small chambers to make it around that way. Very cool.
Yeah. Also, Arm 4... It's passing Quicksilver 2 ways, but it's also passing fire 2 ways.
And it's suppressing over the fire input with that half of a salt output. That's really slick. I love Arm 4 now.
$220 gold, 94 cycles, 63 instructions. Alright. Next up. 2 points better. 11th place. Yep, Biggie, you're next.
Hey, it's my best placement thanks to the tie. I have my 4-arm budget. I decided that I could only use 4 arms, and so it's a little slow, but it's pretty cheap. I'm sad that I needed a second calcifier. In fact, that'll show up in my notes. Let me read my notes. Notes. Biggie writes, I'm really bothered by the second calcifier. There's a design without it, but the result is 12 cycles slower. I wonder if half P is viable, but I doubt it. And I wonder if there's any other viable division of labor. I'm not all that creative in cabinets.
"12 cycles slower. Unfortunate. Yeah, guess who is tied with you?
I don't know. Is it Bread who's talking in the Discord that she knows it's a tie? Who is it?
Murakonda.
Oh, the winner! I'm tied with first place. Fuck yeah! Oh no, I'm tied with second place. Never mind. That's less cool.
Murakonda writes, let's try this again, shall we? I predict that min sum is 375 and that the winner is me.
Yeah, if you do that cross-eyed thing where both of the ones just turn into a single digit 1, that's great.
This solve was originally titled Multitasker's Wet Dream, however, the current title is way funnier, especially if it's still wrong. Credit Pray for Mercy. This is a new Solution 3, made in bed at 4 AM on a Saturday morning. It was built around ARM 1, but ARM 3 is the true miracle here. Despite having invested much less time this week than planned on OM due to illness, I still think I've hit some goal. I mean, 11th is still pretty good, just not as good as first.
I do feel like whenever I tried to do 4 arms and hex arm motifs, it ended up slower than it should be. like I did have a second forearm solution that was a little bit cheaper, but was like 40 cycles slower, and it was ridiculous. But it's just hard to make these things very efficiently. There's so many different tasks.
Oh yeah, also have we seen projection lately?
Mine was purification. Calliresis's was Callie's was projection, I think. I'm possibly no, Callie's was purification. Oh, I forget whose is whose now. I remember there was the one that had the really tight loop on the purification glyph, but Callie's was different. It had the input suppression that I think was achieved with projection. Yeah.
All right.
Well, we know that Goodbye Galaxy used purification, and that one still has yet to be seen. So purification has at least one more showing in the top 10.
All right. Next up. 2 points better. Mr. Puzzle. This one is much cheaper, but much more expensive in instructions.
This is the identical output chamber to mine.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I was looking for. It only has one calcifier in the left chamber, but it does have 2 bonders, so it isn't exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for like a 150, 150, and 60.
ARM2 making 2 rotations each loop also.
What a doubly winding arm.
Alright. Next up, small drops. Small drops still happening. At 2 points better. 371 so. This is purification.
Yeah, purification is nice because it lets you put the quicksilver in the assembly chamber for the other, giving you more space. I didn't even think in terms of that when I was looking at my purification only layouts.
The tracked by arm. Yeah, this was used with quicksilver, right? In one of the instruction solves, I think.
I guess the fact that it takes 2 bonders if you put quicksilver in the assembly chamber, because you still need to put together the other output, does mean that this is still more like 10 gold more expensive than it would be. This is just a very efficient for its cost. Like it's still under 100 cycles and it's under 60 instructions while being only 220. A lot of the other expensive solves we've seen have been like 230, 240.
Right.
Once you get into the top 10, the budget for what counts as expensive gets cheaper.
All right. Next up, 4-point drop. Fiesta. 2 kinds of people, hard workers and ARM 5. Brilliant insight or dead end hyperfixation. By the time these notes are read, we should know the answer. You see, every single solve that I've completed for both metrics uses an arm similar to this hexon. It felt irresistible, capable of running faster than P4, although this particular iteration mostly does not, saving instructions due to no resets and only 30 gold base cost. In fact, my biggest breakthroughs in this metric came entirely from finding ways for that hex arm to do even more. Originally, I had both outputs in the right chamber with some clever build geometry to avoid collisions. That sub-lineage got stuck in the 440s. Finding a way to let the hex arm handle the silver output immediately dropped 50 points, and a subtle change of bonder angle turned out to improve both geometry and speed to drop 30 points more. Some metric reveals are always full of surprises, so I refuse to predict anything. But I do feel good about my work here. Still, we will see. Is this beloved hex arm of mine broke or woke? Murakonda predicts sub 350. I mean, 7th place is pretty good with, especially with this field, so. Arm 5 is lazy. Arm 5 might be lazy, but it is doing something very vital. Oh yeah, also we start to see more, I guess, more balanced triplets. Still on the fast side, but 190 costs 116 cycles, 61 instructions. But we'll have to move on. Also at 7th place, Sai looks away. Purification is probably optimal. Projection forces either both outputs in the same chamber, which makes the solution slow, or a lot of conduit movement. This solution seems too fast and expensive compared to what I expect from some. Even so, this solution looks its best if you permit arms 2 and 4 to become tri-arms, taking the period from 15 to 13 and lowering instructions, but still increasing some by 3. Do I dare? No, I'm not gonna.
This is the cheaper version, but it's still expensive. I do love purification in some. This makes a lot of sense in this puzzle.
All right. Next up, 300 at 363 sum, Ebonub. Right fire, right silver. He writes ... are the 2 atoms that are held by a dedicated arm from beginning to the end, while every other atoms are only briefly held. I see.
This left chamber is identical to Silex Away's left chamber.
Yeah, it is. Right fire, right silver. Well, left fire, right silver, but still. This is still one cycle faster than the previous one. Probably all those save comes from the fire chamber. Alright, next up at 5th place. 1 point better. Thought.
Thought has had a very consistent good showing.
Yep. Haven't we seen... I don't know if we've seen this chamber.
Look at all the area you're allowed to waste when it is a sum solution that doesn't care about area.
Oh yeah, Arm 1 is also sending Quicksilver and Fire into the same conduit by choosing to rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. It is sending Fire onto the left slot of the conduit, or Quicksilver to the right slot of the conduit. Alright, there's no notes as usual. We should move on to the next soul. At 4th place, 360 points, Spiritual Shampoo. Sigma doesn't display in the solutions menu. This is 1/2 P. 45
Seriously?
instructions.
Wow. Wow. In my notes where I wrote, I wonder if half P is viable, but doubt it. And here it is at like 4th place. Really cool.
Mm-hmm. Alright.
Yeah, we're back well over 300 on the cost plus cycles, but that instruction count redeems it.
Alright. Any predictions about the top 3?
Well, Kazian was confident and could reasonably be considered somebody who you expect to take 1st place. But I'm not able to figure out who the names were on the I don't know the full set of names yet. I just know Kazian's good. Goodbye Galaxy is good. Oh gosh. I'm missing one person. I'm gonna feel bad when I realize who it is.
3, 4, 5 just because it's a nice number.
Well, Sergi D. Okay,
yeah,
it's
Sergi D.
Kazian, Galaxy, and Sergi D. There's a bunch of good players, and that could be any order, honestly.
The truth is that all 3 wins. We jump straight to the 1st place. -9 points.
Oh, that's the prediction, is that they all died. That's the best podium I've ever seen.
All right. Surgery writes, this solution saves roughly 50 some from my initial approach. The solution seems expensive for some, but removing multi-arms/arms yielded solutions that were way too slow while increasing the instruction count. Yup, not all solutions are different, yeah. I think all three are different. Alright, this is SurgeD's solution. Let's see. Yeah, the left chamber is really clean. Arm 4, Arm 5 doing... Also, Arm 1 and 2 swinging at the same time to... Swinging at the same time to avoid collision. Alright, next up is Kazian. I had a whole presentation prepped about the value of simple, uncomplicated alchemy when building highly maintainable machines, leading to a low sum score. Then I found these intermeshed hexams that saved 20 points and frankly, had to scrap the whole diatribe. Alchemical engineering, everyone. I presume this is my first podium spot and the last for a while. Alchemist Kazian.
It's a spot on the podium, sitting on that first place with two other people.
Yeah, Arm 4 and 5 are slightly different.
I love how glyph of calcification is just the calcinator. That's the name that Twitch chat gives it, and I love that.
And let's look at the Goodbye Galaxy solve, which is almost identical to Kazian's solve. Goodbye Galaxy writes, I was certain that 3 hexarms was the correct amount, but I stand corrected. Hopefully I don't stand further corrected. So yeah, 3-way tie on the top, on some top end, on the first place even. Some gods agree with each other.
So there were ties for 1st, 7th, 11th, and 27th. Some not having tiebreakers leads to some scores that just get bumped by being the same as the score above them. The moral of the story is increase the average tournament submitter score by having more sum puzzles.
Yeah, and that's it for the two main metrics. Before we look at the showcase solves, I'm going to, while it is already out, I'm going to show the this week's puzzle. Yeah, self-organizing fluid. These two are the outputs. And these are the inputs. Whatever. The metrics are cost, but it's trackless cost, and cycles.
I really love the feng shui of this layout with the outputs wrapped around animisms like this. Although, yeah, Brett has a point. The tribonder.
See, that's why I had to resort to like unconventional the arrangement of the things. All right, yeah, and this is this week's puzzle. Good luck, have fun. And we're going to look at the showcase solves.
I think I might hop off. Enjoy the showcase without me.
Yep.
I appreciate the stream. Wonderful puzzle. Great job, everyone.
Thanks for commentating. Yeah, thanks for 5 a.m. commenting. It No, not on this is for the this showcase is for the previous week's puzzle, Nice Shine. Alright. First showcase, Yoshi's min rate puzzle. A min rate solve. Yeah, min rate because fire is the limiting input, and you are pulling it as fast as possible. So min rate is possible. Yoshi says, I could not ever predict that the production puzzle for this year's tournament would come so soon. But when the puzzle dropped, oh my god, what a beauty it was. Because I like to share trivia about the tournament production puzzles, here's some trivia for you. This is the first tournament production puzzle wherein every chamber is equivalent. This is also the first tournament production puzzle wherein a cardinal atom is bonded to a metallic atom. Anyway, here, have this min rate solve that took me about an hour to make. Its secondary suck and could easily be improved. I just sort of placed it up where I thought they ought to go for min rate, and that was enough. The solve is still slow because high latency though. Yeah, fire is the absolute limiting factor. And if you choose to use purification, copper is limiting. If you choose to use projection, then quicksilver is limiting. Right. And Next up, use bots on neither QS or Copper are limited. Next up, Jemu. C. Though this is slower than the previous rate, so. She says this is the first iteration of Jemu writes, first iteration of Ma Somso. Colon 3. That's it. Yeah, having two outputs in the same chamber wouldn't. I don't think that's really optimal for cycles because of how. Because of the high conduit load. It's slower than quite a few much cheaper scoring some souls. I mean, 19.7 is pretty fast for him. 97 is pretty fast. Anyway, next up, series Bestagon Kevin. There's a pattern to these things, you know? You can hear it in the rhythms of the engines, see it in the elements we manipulate so callously. You just need to look. This cabinet is perfectly serviceable, but there's so much unnecessary extra space around here. I have demonstrated just how much space can be ignored while still getting things done. The moving of the fire input and calcifier into the main chamber was a flash of genius as I solved this, as it allowed me to compress the secondary chamber into a size 2 Bestagon and use it for metal promotion as well. I'm also proud of the fact that even if transplanted to a standard infinite engine, this saw would not take up any spaces outside of the two hexagons. No wall skimming here. Oh, hi Series. In the chat. While everything can fit in one chamber, but it's not regular hexagon, so wouldn't satisfy Series. Alright. Next up, Hello Jasper. G. I see. This is. I see. So. Yeah, this is possible, apparently. Projection because purification demands three track, and we can't have that. I'm actually Kinda surprised that the fire output is outputable in this layout. But I guess that works. Before we look at another soul from Hello Jasper, we are going to look at Minji from Mr. Puzzle. Well, Min plus 5G. Yeah, this is approximately what I had as well. Like, I also experimented with Minji with this puzzle, but like I almost succeeded fitting everything in one chamber, and then it just needed one extra access point. All right. Next up, Hello Jasper's TG Soap. I guess TG on this is either piston or 2 arms. Hello Jasper went with C secondary. Conjure swapping. You can drop conjure phasing maybe. You can drop 2 molecules at the same time on both sides of a conduit, and it'll just swap places. It will not collide. Some call it phasing, yeah. Alright. Next up. Ferradox min cost 2 chambers. He says, inspired by Hello Jasper, this is min cost for 2 chambers. Lower cost with 1 chamber could be possible, but seems difficult. One chamber is possible, especially with track, as Hello Jasper showed. Yes, this is TG. Well, TG primary. All right. Next up. I think if there was some way to actually make a quantum bond, constructs would be involved. Well, that's I guess that's a mod idea. Next up, also by Ferradoc. One machine, 2 outputs. They say this is an earlier design that builds both products exactly the same, alternating between both outputs using conditional logic. It wasn't really feasible because both outputs in one chamber is a little too convoluted, but I really liked it, so here it is as a showcase. Oh, okay. So one loop it makes the fire output, and the other loop it makes the silver output. Neat. Yeah, ARM8 just desyncs on the copper to turn the quicksilver into copper. Alright, next up, 42 Genius 42. So this is... so his notes are, there was going to be my eye, this was going to be my eye for a while, but it has since been usurped by the I equals 48. However, it is the one I am most proud of building, despite how slow it is. One output is 1/6 P and the other is 1/3 P, so they output unevenly. Every third fire and mercury is grabbed and broken apart to project. Also, the right-hand chamber is only 7i. I was hoping to use that in my best soul, but sadly this had just slightly too many I overall to be that soul. I am guessing the better souls use purification rather than projection because they are simpler and don't require a debond, but not sure. Interesting. Okay, so 2 is the conditional one. Okay, so 2 acts every third, 2 abducts every third loop to abduct the molecule from the conduit. I see. Alright. Next we are going to see Evonov's min G solve. This is the final one chamber solve. At least the final one chamber solve I will be showing today. Because the next one is a rate solve. RI. Yoshi's rate solve was 57 cycles. But let's see how many instructions it had. 86 versus 78. I see. This one also uses purification. And yeah, that's for me today, I guess. I guess that's it for me today. Yeah. Good luck and have fun on this puzzle. Yeah, the surprise is that production puzzles also count area. It is just not shown, but yeah, you can make it. You can access area in production puzzle via some way. Yeah, thank you for having me, and good luck, have fun on this puzzle.